The battle should have ended seconds ago. A final strike had already been thrown, momentum frozen in the air between impact and victory. But instead of collision, the sky above Final Destination split. Not like a portal. Not like the familiar summoning rifts the fighters had seen countless times. This was violent. The void above twisted, as if something on the other side was forcing its way through, ripping space apart rather than being welcomed into it. The battlefield trembled. The infinite horizon, normally calm, endless, and silent, began to flicker like a broken screen. And for the first time in Smash history, the fight stopped. Mario lowered his stance, eyes narrowing. This wasn't part of the match. There was no countdown, no signal, no rules guiding this moment. Beside him, Link slowly reached for his sword, but didn't draw it. His instincts weren't telling him to attack. They were telling him to wait, to watch. Above them, the distortion pulsed again. Deeper now, darker. The sound it made wasn't thunder. It was mechanical. A low, grinding hum. Precise. Calculated. Unnatural. High above the battlefield, Samus Aran activated her visor. Data streamed across her display in rapid bursts, scanning, recalibrating, failing, then recalibrating again. Unknown energy signature. Her voice echoed through her suit, controlled but tense. Not Chozo. Not Space Pirate. Not Federation. She paused. Not from this galaxy. That was enough. Across the battlefield, fighters shifted. Some took defensive stances. Others stepped back entirely. Even those who thrived in chaos felt it. Because this wasn't chaos. This was intrusion. The sky tore wider. And then, something emerged. At first it was just a silhouette, a massive shape descending slowly through the distortion. Metal, layered over metal. Rotating mechanisms, locking into place as if the structure itself was assembling mid-descent. It didn't fall. It arrived. The air grew heavier with each passing second. The platform beneath them vibrated, not from impact, but from pressure. As if reality itself was resisting whatever this thing was. Mario clenched his fists. Here we go. He muttered under his breath. The object broke through completely. Now visible in full. A colossal, mechanical structure hovering just above the stage. Its surface gleamed with cold precision. Panels shifted. Lights flickered to life in calculated patterns. Watching, analyzing, learning. A hatch opened. Slowly, deliberately. Steam hissed from within as something moved inside the machine. Not rushed, not aggressive. Confident. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Round, tall, cloaked in red and black. A massive mustache curled outward like a signature of ego itself. Goggles reflected the battlefield below. Dr. Eggman had arrived. He looked down at them, not as enemies, but as subjects. For a moment, no one moved, because something was wrong. Not just his presence, but the way he was here. There was no summoning light, no Smash insignia, no invitation. He had bypassed the system entirely, and he knew it. Eggman's gloved hand adjusted a small device on his wrist. A scanner pulsed outward, invisible to the eye, but not unfelt. Across the battlefield, a subtle distortion rippled through the air, collecting data, analyzing power signatures, recording everything. His lips curled into a slow, satisfied smile. Fascinating, he muttered. Below, Mario took a step forward. Hey, he called out, voice firm but controlled. You don't look like you belong here. Eggman tilted his head slightly, as if hearing something trivial. Belong? He repeated, almost amused. Behind Mario, Link finally drew his sword, just an inch from its sheath. Not attacking. Preparing. Samus's visor flared again, this time locking onto Eggman himself, and what she saw made her pause. There was no energy signature like the others. No aura. No recognizable power system. Just intelligence. Raw. Overwhelming. Dangerous. Eggman took another step forward, standing fully at the edge of his machine, overlooking the battlefield like a ruler surveying land not yet claimed. He didn't see warriors. He saw variables. He raised his hand slightly, and the machine behind him responded instantly, adjusting its position, aligning its systems. Perfect synchronization. Perfect control. The fighters noticed. This wasn't just a man. This was a mind connected to something far greater. Eggman's voice finally echoed across Final Destination. Clear, confident, and filled with quiet arrogance. This world. He paused, scanning them one last time. Will be my greatest experiment. Silence followed, but not the peaceful kind. The kind that comes before something breaks. Then, the platform beneath them flickered, just for a second. So subtle it could have been ignored. But Samus didn't ignore it. Her visor immediately recalculated, then froze. It's impossible, she whispered. Mario glanced back. What is it? Samus didn't answer right away, because what she was seeing didn't make sense. The system that controlled Smash, the invisible force that restored fighters, reset battles, maintained balance, had just glitched. And far above them, unseen by all except the machine that had caused it, a hidden layer of code within the world itself began to shift. Not randomly, but deliberately. Eggman watched it happen and smiled wider, because he hadn't just entered the battlefield. He had touched the system behind it. And somewhere deep within Final Destination, something had just been rewritten. The battlefield had not recovered. The air still trembled from the distortion above, and the faint flicker beneath the surface of reality hadn't stopped. It had only become quieter, subtler, more dangerous. At the center of it all, standing atop his hovering machine, Dr. Eggman watched, not as a warrior, not as a conqueror, but as a scientist who had just discovered a phenomenon beyond imagination. Below him, tension stretched across Final Destination like a wire ready to snap. Mario stepped forward first. Last chance, he said, steady but firm. You explain yourself, or we make you. Eggman didn't respond, because he wasn't listening. His eyes moved, not across Mario, not across the fighters, but beyond them, through them, as if he were looking at something none of them could see. Then, suddenly, he tapped a control on his wrist. A small drone launched from behind him, darting into the air with precision. It hovered above the battlefield, scanning, rotating, collecting. And then it fired. A thin beam shot downward, not explosive, not destructive, just enough to strike a single target. Kirby. The beam hit. Kirby was launched backward, rolling across the stage, tumbling once, twice, before falling completely still. For a split second, silence. Mario's eyes widened. Kirby? Link fully drew his sword. Samus raised her arm cannon instantly, locking onto Eggman. The fighters moved. This was it. The first clash. But then, something impossible happened. Kirby's body flickered. Not like a teleport. Not like a recovery. Like a reset. Light consumed him for just a moment. And then, he was back. Standing. Breathing. Completely unharmed. Exactly where he had been moments before. The battlefield froze again. Even the fighters who had seen this mechanic countless times felt it differently now. Because someone else had seen it too. Eggman. And this time, he reacted. His head tilted slightly. His fingers paused mid-command. His eyes sharpened behind his goggles. That was all he said at first. But the shift in his expression said everything he had noticed. And more importantly, he understood. Fascinating, Eggman whispered, stepping forward slightly as his machine adjusted behind him. Below, Mario clenched his fists. You think this is a game? Eggman let out a soft chuckle. Oh, quite the opposite, he replied. This is the most advanced system I have ever encountered. Samus's visor flared again, scanning Kirby, then the space where he had fallen. No residual damage. No energy trace of recovery, she muttered. It's not healing. It's reconstruction. Link's grip tightened. So we don't die, he said quietly. Eggman's smile widened. Exactly. That was the moment everything changed. Because now, he wasn't just observing the fighters. He was observing the rules. Eggman raised his hand again. This time, multiple drones deployed, spreading across the battlefield like a web of sensors. The fighters reacted instantly. Fox fired first, precise laser shots cutting through two drones midair. Samus followed, blasting another before it could scan her position. Link dashed forward, slicing one clean in half. But Eggman didn't resist. He didn't counter. He simply recorded. Every movement, every reaction time, every strategy. Speed, strength, adaptability, he murmured, analyzing in real time. And yet all bound to a system that negates consequence. Mario leaped upward, aiming straight for Eggman himself. This ends now. He swung. But Eggman moved. Not with speed, with prediction. The machine beneath him shifted instantly, dodging Mario's attack before it even landed. Mario hit the platform, skidding back. And for the first time, he hesitated. Eggman pointed downward again. Let's confirm one more variable. A larger drone deployed, heavier, armed. It locked onto Mario. Fired. The blast hit directly. Smoke erupted across the platform as Mario was launched off the edge, disappearing into the void below. Mario, someone shouted. The battlefield held its breath. 1 second. 2. 3. Then, flash. Mario reappeared. Back on the platform. Alive. Unharmed. Reset. And this time, Eggman laughed. Not loudly. Not wildly. But with absolute certainty. Of course, he said, almost impressed. A closed-loop system. Input. Destruction. Reconstruction. Repeat. Samus stepped forward. You don't understand it. Eggman's gaze snapped to her. Oh, I understand it perfectly. He raised his arms slightly, as if presenting the battlefield itself. A world where failure is temporary, where death is irrelevant, where combat generates infinite data. His voice lowered. And none of you have realized what that means. The fighters didn't respond, because deep down, they felt it. There was something in his tone, something dangerous. Eggman turned slightly, looking out into the endless horizon of Final Destination. A system like this, he continued, eliminates the greatest limitation of progress. Mario narrowed his eyes. And what's that? Eggman looked back at him and smiled. Consequence. The word echoed. Heavy. Unsettling. Because for the first time, someone wasn't seeing Smash as a battlefield. They were seeing it as a laboratory. Eggman stepped back, his machine rising slightly as its systems began to hum louder. Energy pulsed through its core. Faint, experimental, unstable. Imagine it, he said, almost whispering now. Endless iterations, endless refinement. Evolution accelerated beyond natural limits. Samus's eyes widened slightly. He's not here to fight, she realized. Eggman's voice cut through the silence. If death has no consequence. The machine behind him surged with power. Then evolution can be forced. The battlefield flickered again. Stronger this time. Not just a glitch. A shift. And high above them, hidden beyond the visible layer of their world, something responded, as if the system itself had just been challenged. Something was wrong. Not in the way battles usually felt wrong. Not strategy, not strength, not even fear. This was deeper. The very flow of the battlefield had begun to stutter. At first, it was subtle. A delayed movement. A flicker in the air. A moment where sound seemed to cut out, then snap back into place. But now, it was spreading. Across Final Destination, the light beneath the platform pulsed unevenly, like a heartbeat losing rhythm. And above it all, Dr. Eggman watched in silence, waiting, measuring, learning how far he could push. Stay sharp, Samus Aran said, her arm cannons slowly scanning left to right. The system is fluctuating. Mario rolled his shoulders, eyes locked upward. Yeah, I feel it too. Even Link shifted uneasily, his usual calm replaced by something rare. Uncertainty. Because this battlefield had always been constant. Predictable. Even in chaos, there were rules. You fall, you return. You lose, you reset. No exceptions. No failures. Until now. Without warning. A tremor shook the stage. Not physical. Digital. Like something unseen had just been struck. High above, the empty sky distorted again. But this time, it wasn't a tear. It was a presence. Slowly, something began to form. A massive white glove. Elegant. Smooth. Unnatural. Descending with silent authority. Master Hand had arrived. The fighters immediately stepped back, not out of fear, but recognition. This was the one who governed the battles. The one who set the rules. The one who was the system. Master Hand hovered above the battlefield, fingers twitching slightly, as if feeling something invisible. Something wrong. Its movements were different today. Less controlled. More reactive. For the first time, it wasn't guiding the system. It was searching it. Eggman tilted his head, observing carefully. Ah, he murmured. So the administrator reveals itself. Master Hand turned. Not fully. Just enough. Its fingers curled slightly toward Eggman. A silent warning, This was not allowed. This intrusion was not part of the design. But Eggman didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled. "Tell me," he said calmly, "how rigid are your rules?" The glove moved instantly. A sharp flick of its fingers, and a wave of force shot downward. The attack struck the battlefield with precision, targeting Eggman directly. But his machine reacted first. Thrusters ignited. Metal shifted. The attack missed. Barely. Eggman leaned slightly, watching the energy dissipate behind him. Efficient, he noted, but predictable. Below, the fighters didn't move, because something else had caught their attention. A clash had just happened behind them. Fast, unseen, a blur of motion, and a figure was launched off the stage. Fox McCloud. "Fox!" Mario shouted, turning instantly. Fox disappeared into the void below. The battlefield went silent. 1 second passed, then 2, then 3. Everyone waited, because they knew what came next. The flash, the return, the reset. But nothing happened. Samus's visor flickered violently. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." Link stepped forward, eyes locked on the empty space where Fox should have reappeared. "He's not coming back." Mario shook his head. "No, he always comes back." But the system didn't respond. No light, no reconstruction, no reset. Just silence. Above them, Master Hand froze, completely still. Its fingers twitched, once, twice, then rapidly, as if issuing commands, forcing corrections, trying to fix something that refused to obey. The air around it began to distort, not from power, but from error. Eggman's expression shifted. Not surprise, not confusion, recognition. "Ah," he said softly, then louder, almost impressed. "It's already happening." He stepped forward again, eyes gleaming behind his goggles. "The system is compensating, but it's too late." Samus turned sharply toward him. "What did you do?" Eggman didn't answer directly. Instead, he gestured toward the battlefield, toward the empty space. "Observe," he said. Suddenly, the platform flickered violently, harder than before. The entire stage glitched, colors inverting, edges breaking apart, sound distorting into static. And for a split second, everything froze. Completely. Then, it snapped back. But Fox was still gone. Mario took a step back. Slow. Uncertain. "This isn't a match anymore," he said quietly. Link tightened his grip on his sword. Samus lowered her arm cannon, just slightly. Because now, they understood. This wasn't about winning. This wasn't about fighting. The rules they had trusted were breaking. Above them, Master Hand moved again. But this time, its motion wasn't controlled. It was erratic, unstable. Its fingers glitched, phasing in and out for brief moments. Like even it was losing control. Eggman watched the chaos unfold, completely calm, completely focused. This system was never designed for external interference, he said. It recycles, it resets, it repeats. He paused, then smiled. But it does not adapt. The battlefield trembled again. Stronger now, more violent. Cracks of light began forming beneath the platform, like fractures in reality itself. The sky above darkened, not naturally, but artificially, as if something was overriding the environment. Mario looked around, heart pounding. What happens if more of us don't come back? No one answered. Because no one knew. Eggman finally turned away from them, back toward the horizon, where the fabric of the world itself was beginning to distort. His voice lowered, calm, certain. For the first time, he glanced back just slightly. Your world understands consequence. And then, another fighter was launched off the stage. This time, everyone watched. Desperately. Waiting, hoping, praying for the flash, for the return, for the system to fix itself. But the seconds passed. 1, 2, 3. Nothing. The battlefield fell into silence. Heavy, unforgiving, real. For the first time in Smash history, defeat meant something. For the first time, the fighters felt it. Not damage, not loss, but something far worse. The silence didn't last. It couldn't. Because fear, real fear, doesn't freeze people forever. It forces them to act. And the moment the truth settled in, that not everyone was coming back, the battlefield erupted. Spread out, Fox McCloud shouted. Already moving, already thinking. We don't know how deep this goes yet. Blastifier lit up the air as he repositioned, scanning angles, predicting threats. Mario didn't wait. He ran forward, straight toward Dr. Eggman. No hesitation, no strategy, just instinct. Then we stop him now. Eggman didn't move. He simply watched. And then, he pressed a single command. The machine behind him shifted, its panels opening with mechanical precision. Rows of capsules slid into position, locked, loaded, and then they dropped. The sky filled with falling metal. Small at first. Dozens. Then hundreds. Each one hit the battlefield with sharp, controlled impact, cracking open instantly as glowing eyes flickered to life. Badniks. Basic. Simple. But perfectly engineered. They rose in unison. No wasted motion. No hesitation. A mechanical army born in seconds. Mario skidded to a stop, eyes widening slightly. Robots? They're not just robots, Samus said sharply, raising her arm cannon. They're adapting. Look at their movement patterns. She fired. A blast tore through the nearest Badnik, destroying it instantly. But the others adjusted. Spacing changed. Angles shifted. Their formation evolved in real time, and Eggman was watching everything. Engage, Fox muttered. The battlefield exploded into motion. Blaster fire. Energy blasts. Steel against steel. Badniks charged forward in coordinated waves, targeting different fighters simultaneously. Mario leaped into the air, spinning through a cluster of them, smashing 3 apart in rapid succession before landing hard. Too easy, he said. But then one grabbed his arm. Another struck from behind. A third aimed directly for his blind spot. Mario broke free, but barely. They weren't just attacking. They were learning. Across the battlefield, Kirby bounced forward, eyes focused. A Badnik lunged. Kirby inhaled. The machine vanished into him. And for a brief second, nothing happened. Then, Kirby glowed. A mechanical hum echoed faintly as his form shifted slightly. New ability. New data. Kirby raised his hand and fired. A perfect replica of the Badnik's own energy blast shot forward, destroying 3 more instantly. Kirby blinked, then smiled. High above, Eggman's expression changed. Not surprise. Interest. Adaptation through absorption, he murmured. Fascinating. organic mimicry with near-perfect replication. He tapped his wrist again, recording every detail. Fox flipped behind cover, firing precise shots between movements. Patterns confirmed, he muttered to himself. They're not random. They're adjusting per target. He glanced at Mario. They're studying us mid-fight. Mario punched through another badnik, breathing heavier now. Then we hit harder. But even as they fought, something was off. Again, subtle, but growing. A destroyed badnik flickered. Just for a second, its remains glitched, before disappearing completely. Not like debris. Like data being removed. Samus noticed immediately. He's not just deploying them, she said. He's retrieving combat results in real time. Fox's eyes narrowed. So this isn't an attack. He looked up. It's a test. Mid-battle. Everything shifted. The badniks stopped. All at once. Frozen. Perfectly still. The fighters hesitated. Confused. Breathing hard. Waiting. And then, they retreated. Every single one of them. Launching upward. Returning to the machine. Disappearing into its structure as if they had never been there. The battlefield fell silent again. Mario looked around, fists still clenched. What just happened? No one answered. Because above them, Eggman stepped forward once more. Calm. Composed. Satisfied. I believe I have seen enough. His voice echoed across the battlefield, cutting through the tension like a blade. You fight with instinct, with experience, with raw, unrefined potential. He adjusted his gloves slightly, gaze sweeping across every fighter. Individually impressive. He paused, then smiled. But collectively, predictable. Fox stepped forward, blaster still raised. Then come down here and test that yourself. Eggman chuckled softly. Oh, I already have. That was the moment it clicked. For all of them. This wasn't a battle. It never was. This was data collection. Eggman turned slightly, looking back at his machine as its systems pulsed with newly gathered information. Combat styles, reaction speeds, adaptability curves, recovery mechanics. Each word felt heavier than the last. Because he wasn't guessing anymore. He knew them. Kirby tilted his head slightly. Mario clenched his fists. Samus lowered her cannon, just slightly. And Fox didn't move at all. Because he understood something the others were just beginning to realize. Eggman wasn't overwhelmed. He wasn't struggling. He hadn't even tried. Eggman looked back at them one final time. And for the first time, there was no curiosity in his eyes. Only certainty. This isn't just a battlefield. He spread his arms slightly, as if presenting the entire world before him. It's a database. A pause. A smile. Cold. Precise. Unshakable. Of gods. The machine behind him roared to life. Louder than before. Deeper. Evolving. And beneath their feet, the battlefield glitched again. Stronger. Longer. More unstable. Because now, Eggman wasn't just observing the system. He was preparing to rewrite it. The moment didn't feel like victory. It felt forced. Like something had been pushed to happen. The battlefield still pulsed with unstable energy. Fragments of light flickering beneath the surface as if reality itself hadn't finished correcting the damage. And yet, the fighters moved. Because hesitation was no longer an option. Now! Mario shouted. This time, they didn't wait. They attacked together. Samus Aran fired first, her charge beam cutting through the air with precision, forcing Dr. Eggman's machine to shift position. Link followed instantly, launching forward with calculated speed, blade flashing as he closed the distance. From above, Fox provided cover fire, blaster shots locking down escape routes. This wasn't chaos anymore. This was coordination, adaptation, learning. Eggman saw it all and didn't resist. His machine moved, but slower this time. Deliberately slower. Just enough to evade, but not enough to dominate. Mario noticed first. He's holding back, but there was no time to question it. Ario leaped forward, spinning midair. Here we go! And landed a direct hit. The impact shook the machine, sparks flying as Eggman's platform staggered under the force. For the first time, Eggman took damage. The fighters pressed harder. Samus closed in, switching to rapid-fire blasts. Link struck again, precise, relentless. Fox adjusted angles mid-air, targeting weak points already exposed. It was working. Too well. High above, Eggman's expression didn't change. No frustration. No urgency. Just observation. His fingers moved subtly across his controls, recording every movement, every decision, every shift in their coordination. Faster adaptation than projected, he murmured. Good. Mario charged again, this time aiming straight for the cockpit. This ends now. He struck. A direct, clean hit. The machine cracked. A loud mechanical rupture echoed across the battlefield as its core flickered violently. For a moment, everything stopped. Eggman looked down at the damage. At the sparks. At the failing systems. Then slowly, he sighed. Well, he said calmly, that concludes Phase 1. The machine behind him began to shut down. Not violently. Not catastrophically. Systematically. Panels folded inward. Energy dimmed. Thrusters powered down. Controlled. Intentional. Mario landed, breathing hard. Eyes locked on Eggman. You're done. But something in his voice lacked certainty. Because this didn't feel like a fight that had been won. It felt like one that had been allowed. Eggman stepped back as the remains of his machine lowered slightly, smoke drifting into the air. You've performed exactly as expected, he said. Fox narrowed his eyes midair. That wasn't a battle. Eggman glanced at him and smiled before anyone could react. The machine behind him collapsed, exploding outward in a controlled detonation, forcing the fighters to jump back as debris scattered across the stage. Smoke filled the battlefield. Vision blurred. Sound dulled. Stay alert, Samus warned, visor scanning through the smoke. Link raised his shield. Mario stepped forward cautiously. Where is he? The smoke began to clear. Slowly. Carefully. And at the center of it, nothing. Eggman was gone. No remains. No signal. No trace. Silence fell again. Heavy. Uncertain. We got him, right? Mario said, though it sounded more like a question than a statement. Fox landed beside him, lowering his blaster slightly. No. From the edge of the battlefield, a voice spoke. Calm. Low. Certain. That wasn't combat. All eyes turned. Standing just beyond the fractured edge of the platform, partially concealed by shadow. Solid Snake. He stepped forward slowly, his gaze fixed not on the battlefield, but on the space where Eggman had been. That was reconnaissance, Mario frowned. What are you talking about? We destroyed his machine. Snake shook his head. No, he let you destroy it. Samus turned slightly. Explain. Snake crouched near a piece of fallen debris, examining it closely. Then he tapped it lightly. The metal flickered. Just for a second. Like it wasn't entirely physical. He wasn't testing his strength, Snake continued. He was testing yours. Reaction times. Teamwork. Response patterns. He stood up, eyes narrowing. And more importantly, he looked up. He was mapping the system. Fox's expression hardened. So this whole thing, Snake nodded, was surveillance. A quiet realization spread across the battlefield. Heavy. Unsettling. Because that meant everything they had just done. Everything they had shown. Every move. Every reaction was now understood. Above them, the sky flickered again. Subtle. Almost invisible. But this time, it didn't feel random. Deep within the unseen layers of the Smash system, something was changing. Lines of invisible code shifted, rewriting, adapting, responding to a new presence that didn't belong, but had found a way in, and somewhere beyond their reach, in a place between dimensions. Eggman stood before a projection of the battlefield, watching, analyzing, smiling. Excellent, he whispered. His fingers moved rapidly across holographic interfaces, feeding new instructions into something far deeper than machines. Not hardware, not weapons. The system itself. Now that I understand the rules, he paused, eyes gleaming. It's time to rewrite them. Back on Final Destination. The platform flickered again. Longer this time. More violently. And for just a single frame. Barely visible. A fighter's respawn platform appeared. Then disappeared. Without activating. The system didn't correct it. It accepted it. The battlefield didn't reset. That was the first sign. Final Destination, once flawless, once eternal, now flickered with instability. Light beneath the platform pulsed unevenly, like something alive, struggling to survive. And the fighters felt it. Not just as warriors, but as pieces of something far bigger, beginning to break. This place, it's changing. The voice was calm, but heavy with realization. Zelda stepped forward, her eyes fixed not on the battlefield, but on the air itself, as if she could see the distortion hidden within it. This is not a simple disruption, she continued. It's corruption. Around her, the strongest fighters had gathered. Not by command, not by rule, but by instinct. Because something had forced them to stop fighting each other and start understanding the threat. Samus Aran stood with arms crossed, visor dim but active, processing data constantly. It's not just corruption, she said. It's controlled interference. She paused. Artificial. At the edge of the group, Kirby sat quietly. Unusual. Kirby didn't look confused. He didn't look afraid. He looked focused, as if he felt something the others couldn't. Something's wrong, Kirby said softly. Everyone turned. Kirby tilted his head slightly. But it's also growing. Silence followed. Because that word, growing, made everything worse. Mario stepped forward, fists clenched. All right, enough guessing, he said. We know who did this. His eyes narrowed. Eggman. At the edge of the platform, Solid Snake leaned slightly against a broken fragment of debris, arms crossed. And we know how he operates, Snake added. He doesn't rush outcomes. He builds them. He looked around at the group. Everything we've seen so far was step one. Fox stepped forward, expression sharp. Data collection. Snake nodded. Exactly. Zelda raised her hand slightly, drawing their focus again. Then let us think like him, she said calmly. If this is a system, and he has found a way inside. Her voice lowered. Then what is his objective? The group fell silent. Because now, this wasn't about reacting. This was about understanding. Samus answered first. Control. One word. Direct. Precise. Fox shook his head slightly. Control alone doesn't explain the risk he's taking. This system isn't stable anymore. He's destabilizing the very environment he's in. Snake's gaze sharpened. That's because he's not planning to stay within the system, he said. He's planning to own it. That was the turning point. The realization didn't come all at once. It spread, slowly, like something sinking in deeper with every second. Mario looked around, confusion shifting into something heavier. Wait, he said. You're saying this isn't about beating us? No one answered immediately, because they all knew the truth now. They had just been avoiding it. Zelda closed her eyes for a brief moment, then opened them. Clear. Certain. He is not here to fight us, she said. Her voice echoed across the broken stillness of Final Destination. He is here to control the system that governs us. The words hit harder than any attack, because that meant every battle, every respawn, every rule they had lived by was no longer guaranteed. Kirby looked up again, eyes reflecting the flickering light beneath the platform. If he controls it, Kirby said quietly, then we can't come back. Mario's fists tightened. Then we stop him before that happens. But even as he said it, the platform beneath them flickered again. Harder. Longer. Samus's visor surged with data. No, she whispered. This isn't just spreading. She turned toward the others. It's accelerating. Fox's expression darkened. He's already started. Suddenly, the sky above them glitched. Not like before. Not subtle. Not distant. This time, it broke. A massive distortion rippled across the horizon, like a crack forming in glass. And within that crack, something moved. Not Eggman. Something else. Something deeper. Master Hand appeared again. But this time, it wasn't alone. For a split second, another shape flickered behind it. Darker. Heavier. Watching. Snake's eyes narrowed instantly. We're not just dealing with him anymore. Zelda stepped back slightly, her composure faltering for the first time. No, the system is responding. Samus raised her arm cannon slowly, or losing control. Above them, Master Hand twitched violently. Not attacking. Not guiding. Glitching. And somewhere, beyond the battlefield, Eggman watched it all unfold. Exactly as planned. Back on Final Destination, the fighters stood together. Not as rivals, not as competitors, but as something new. A council, a resistance. And for the first time, they weren't asking how to win a fight. They were asking something far more dangerous. How do you fight? a system that can erase you. Because now, they understood the truth. Eggman didn't need to defeat them. He just needed to take control. And once he did, there would be no next match, no reset, no return, only silence. The first punch didn't feel wrong. It felt perfect. Mario's fist cut through the air with precision. Fast, controlled, instinctive. And yet, it didn't land, because his opponent moved exactly the same way. A mirrored motion. A perfect dodge. Mario's eyes widened. What? Standing across from him. Same stance. Same posture. Same fire in the eyes. Was himself. But colder. Silent. Unfeeling. A mechanical copy. The ground beneath Final Destination flickered violently as the figure stepped forward. Metal joints hummed softly beneath synthetic skin, eyes glowing faintly red. Combat data. Synchronized. The voice sounded like Mario, but hollow, stripped of warmth. From the shadows beyond the platform, a low, echoing laugh spread through the broken sky. Did you really think I would waste such valuable data? Dr. Eggman's voice resonated across the battlefield, distorted yet triumphant. Every move, every reaction, every instinct. Pause. Then, I've turned them into weapons. Suddenly. The air fractured. Glitches tore open across the stage like digital wounds. And from each distortion, they emerged. Copies. Dozens of them. A second Samus Aran landed with mechanical precision. Arm cannon already charged. A silent Link stepped forward, blade humming with artificial energy. Even another Kirby floated gently down, eyes empty. The Smash Council didn't speak. They didn't need to. Because this wasn't an invasion. It was replication. Everyone, stay sharp, Mario shouted, stepping back into stance. These things, they fight like us. Snake's voice cut in immediately. No, Solid Snake said, eyes scanning rapidly. They fight like what we were. And then, the battle began. Mechanical Mario lunged forward. Same speed, same power. Mario blocked. Barely. The impact sent a shockwave across the platform. You've got to be kidding me, Mario muttered. The copy didn't hesitate. Didn't breathe. Didn't think. It adapted. A second strike came faster. A third. Faster still. Mario was pushed back. For the first time, he was losing ground to himself. Across the battlefield. Samus fired. A charged beam exploded toward her duplicate. The mechanical Samus countered instantly. Perfect angle. Perfect timing. The beams collided midair. Equal force. Equal output. Impossible, Samus whispered. Her visor flickered. Reading. Calculating. They're not just copying. Her voice tightened. They're optimizing. That was the turning point. Because suddenly, everyone saw it. Link clashed blades with his replica. At first, perfect balance. Steel meeting steel. Skill against skill. But then, the copy shifted its stance. Slightly, subtly. A variation. One Link had never used. And it worked. The real Link staggered back, barely blocking the follow-up strike. It's learning, he realized. Kirby inhaled, pulling in air to prepare a counter. But his mechanical counterpart reacted instantly, faster than instinct. It struck first. Kirby was sent sliding across the platform. Eyes wide. It knew. The realization spread like fire. These weren't clones. They weren't simple machines. They were evolving. Every second. Every movement. Every fight. Making them better. Above it all, Eggman watched. Hidden. Untouchable. Organic limitation. He mused. How predictable. Back on the battlefield, Mario wiped a streak of dirt from his cheek, breathing heavier now. His copy stood before him. Perfect posture. No fatigue. No hesitation. All right, Mario muttered, tightening his fists. Then let's see how you handle this. He charged. Not with precision. Not with perfection. But with unpredictability. A feint. A sudden shift. A move born not from logic, but instinct. The copy reacted. Fast. Efficient. But for the first time, not perfectly. Mario's fist connected. The impact echoed. The mechanical Mario staggered. Just slightly. And in that moment, Mario smiled. Gotcha. But the smile didn't last. Because the machine tilted its head. Processing. Learning. Adapting. Adjustment complete. And then, it moved again. Faster than before. Mario barely blocked the next strike. Shock spread through his arms. No way. Snake's voice cut through the chaos. Don't give them time, he shouted. Every second you fight, they get stronger. Samus fired again, this time rapidly. Relentless. Trying to overwhelm the system. But even that began to fail, because the copies weren't just catching up anymore. They were surpassing. The battlefield descended into controlled chaos. Every fighter, facing themselves. Skill versus adaptation. Instinct versus evolution. And slowly, inevitably, the balance began to shift. Not in favor of the originals, but in favor of something new. Something engineered. Something better. Mario stumbled back again, breathing hard now. His copy stood untouched. Unshaken. And then, it spoke. Original limitations detected. Mario froze. Obsolete. Silence fell. Just for a second. Because those words weren't just analysis. They were judgment. Above the battlefield, the sky cracked again. More distortions. More signals. More incoming. Eggman's voice echoed once more. Calm. Certain. This is only the beginning. And as the next wave of mechanical fighters began to emerge, stronger, faster, more refined, the truth became undeniable. These copies didn't just mimic. They adapted faster than anyone could survive. And soon, there wouldn't be a difference anymore. Only replacements. The air changed. Not slowly, not subtly, violently. A pulse tore through Final Destination. An invisible shockwave that bent light distorted sound and made every fighter freeze mid-motion. Even the machines stopped. For a single second, everything stood still. Then, it hit. A surge of energy erupted from beneath the stage, blasting upward like a pillar of raw power. It wasn't fire. It wasn't electricity. It was something deeper. Something fundamental. What is this? Mario whispered, shielding his eyes as the ground beneath him cracked with glowing fractures. Across the battlefield, Samus Aran's visor flared wildly, struggling to process the readings. Energy levels are off the charts, she muttered. But there's no known source. It's like it's coming from everywhere. Because it was. The Smash world itself was leaking power. High above the battlefield, hidden behind layers of distortion, Dr. Eggman stood within his observation chamber, eyes wide with fascination. Ah, he breathed, fingers dancing across a holographic interface. There it is. Streams of data spiraled around him, forming a chaotic map of the Smash system, its rules, its resets, its hidden core. An entire universe governed by energy conversion and rebirth mechanics. His grin widened. And you never even realized it. Back below, the fighters felt it. Not just as power, but as pressure. Like the world itself was pushing against them. And then, someone else reacted. Floating above the fractured ground, eyes glowing with quiet intensity. Mewtwo spoke. This energy, his voice was calm, measured, but laced with something deeper. It is not natural. The battlefield stilled again. Because when Mewtwo spoke like that, you listened. He raised a hand slowly, psychic energy forming around it. Not to attack. To feel. To understand. This world already possessed a balance, he continued. A cycle. Defeat, restoration, repetition. His eyes narrowed. But now, a pulse rippled outward from his hand. And for a brief moment, everyone felt it. A distortion within the energy itself. Something is rewriting that balance. That was the turning point. Because suddenly, the energy surge intensified. Cracks in the stage widened, glowing brighter. The sky above fractured again. But this time, the light pouring through wasn't white. It was chaotic. Unstable. Eggman's voice echoed across the battlefield once more. But now, it carried something new. Excitement. Do you feel it? He said, almost laughing. The raw, untapped potential of your little system. The mechanical fighters began to move again, but something had changed. Their bodies glowed faintly, energy coursing through them, amplified. A mechanical Link dashed forward, faster than before, far faster. The real Link barely raised his shield in time. The impact sent him sliding back across the platform, boots grinding against the glowing cracks. It's stronger, he realized. No, Samus said, her visor flickering rapidly. It's evolving again. Mewtwo's gaze sharpened. He has found a way to replicate it. Above, Eggman raised a hand, activating a new sequence. Streams of chaotic energy condensed into glowing cores within his machines. Chaos energy, he said softly. A concept from my own world. He smiled. Now reborn in yours. And then, he activated it. A surge exploded outward. Every mechanical fighter powered up. Their movements sharpened. Their reactions accelerated. Their attacks became devastating. Mario barely dodged a strike from his copy. The ground behind him shattered from the impact alone. This is insane, he shouted. Kirby floated back, eyes wide as his mechanical counterpart unleashed a burst of energy that distorted the air itself. It's too much. Snake's voice cut through the chaos again. Fall back. We can't fight them like this. But retreat wasn't simple anymore, because the battlefield itself was changing. Platforms shifted unpredictably. Gravity flickered. The rules were breaking. Mewtwo clenched his fist, psychic energy flaring violently now. This is no longer evolution, he said, voice rising for the first time. This is forced ascension. His eyes locked onto the glowing machines. And it will destroy everything. Above, Eggman leaned forward, watching every reaction, every struggle, every failure. Yes, he whispered. Struggle, adapt, resist. His smile widened. It only makes the system easier to refine. Another surge pulsed through the battlefield. Stronger than before. Even the fighters staggered under its weight. And then, something unexpected happened. Mewtwo froze. Not from fear, but realization. No. The others looked toward him. His eyes were locked on the energy flowing through the battlefield. Not the machines. The source. He's not just replicating it, Mewtwo said slowly. He's connecting to it. Silence. Because that changed everything. Mario looked up, confusion turning into alarm. What does that mean? Mewtwo's voice dropped. It means. Another surge erupted. Stronger, wilder, unstable. He's no longer limited by his own power. Above, Eggman raised both arms. Energy spiraling around him now. Controlled. Commanded. And now, he declared, I can push this world, beyond its limits. The sky cracked open wider. Energy poured through like a collapsing star. The machines roared forward, stronger than ever. And below, the fighters realized something terrifying. This wasn't the peak. This was just the beginning. Because Eggman hadn't just found power. He had found a way to amplify it endlessly. And if no one stopped him, there would be no limit left to break. The first one didn't fall with a scream. There was no dramatic clash. No final strike. Just silence. Link's blade met his mechanical counterparts in a perfect lock. Steel against steel. Sparks frozen in the air between them. For a moment, they were equal. Then, the balance broke. The mechanical link twisted its wrist. A movement so small, so precise, that it slipped past instinct. The real Link staggered. Just one step. But that was all it took. A pulse of chaotic energy surged from the machine's blade, wrapping around Link's arm like living chains. What? He tried to pull back. Tried to counter. But the energy tightened. Not damaging. Not destroying. Binding. Across the battlefield, the same thing began to happen. Fighters weren't being defeated. They were being taken. Link! Mario shouted, trying to break through the chaos around him. But his path was blocked. Again. By his own reflection. The mechanical Mario struck faster now. Every hit carrying amplified force. Mario blocked, but barely. Each impact drove him back further. You're not giving me any space, he muttered, breathing heavier now. Because that was the difference. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was pressure. Relentless. Calculated. On the other side of the platform, Samus Aran fired a rapid volley of shots, forcing her mechanical double to retreat, if only for a second. Her visor flickered wildly. Armor integrity holding, but barely. The mechanical Samus raised its arm cannon. And then, it changed. Panels along its suit shifted, reconfiguring mid-combat. A new weapon formed. One Samus had never used. No way. The blast that followed tore through the air. Samus dodged, but not cleanly. The edge of the beam struck her shoulder. Her suit sparked violently, systems flickering. It's adapting beyond my own arsenal. That was the turning point. Because now, Everyone understood. This wasn't just about strength anymore. It was escalation. Unfair. Uncontrolled. Kirby floated backward, trying to create distance, but his mechanical counterpart didn't chase. It waited, calculating. Then inhaled. Faster. Stronger. Kirby's eyes widened. It copied that too? The pull was overwhelming. He barely managed to resist, gripping the air itself as he struggled against the force. Everywhere, fighters were being pushed past their limits. Not broken. Outpaced. And then, it happened. Link dropped to one knee. The energy binding his arms spread across his body now, glowing lines crawling like circuitry beneath his skin. No! He tried to stand, tried to fight it, but the mechanical Link stepped forward calmly. Resistance is inefficient. Its voice was empty, cold. And then, it placed its hand on Link's chest. The energy surged. Link's body froze. His eyes flickered. Just for a moment. And then, they dimmed. "Link!" Mario shouted. But it was too late. Link didn't disappear. He didn't fall. He stood back up. Slowly. Turning toward the battlefield. But something was wrong. His stance, perfect. Too perfect. His expression, gone. The Master Sword in his hand glowed. But not with light. With chaos. System integration complete. Silence. Because now, the truth was undeniable. They weren't just losing. They were being converted. Mewtwo's eyes widened, psychic energy flaring violently around him. This is no longer combat. His voice trembled, just slightly. This is assimilation. Above. Eggman watched, arms folded behind his back. Why destroy what you can improve? He mused. His gaze shifted across the battlefield, watching each fighter struggle, each system strain, each moment of failure. Your abilities, he smiled, belong to me now. Back below. Samus forced herself up, armor damaged but still functional. Her eyes locked onto Link. He's still there, she said quietly. But he can't control it. Snake moved beside her, expression darker than ever. Then we don't hold back. Samus hesitated. Just for a second. Because that wasn't just an enemy anymore. That was one of them. And now, he was turning against them. Link moved. Faster than before. His blade cut through the air with terrifying precision, forcing Mario to dodge at the last second. Link, it's me, Mario shouted. No response. Only another strike. Sharper. Deadlier. Mario blocked. But the force sent him sliding across the platform. This isn't right, he whispered. And around him, others began to fall. Not all at once, but one by one. Captured. Converted. Turned. The battlefield grew quieter. Not because the fighting stopped, but because fewer voices remained. Fewer allies. More enemies. The balance was gone. This wasn't Smash anymore. There were no equal fights. No second chances. Only survival. Only resistance. And above it all, Eggman activated the next phase. Energy surged again. Stronger. More unstable. The corrupted fighters stood in formation now. Perfect. Silent. Waiting. Mario looked around, breathing hard. Watching his friends, his allies, stand against him. We're losing. And for the first time, no one argued. Because deep down, They all felt it. This wasn't a battle they were meant to win. Not like this. Not anymore. As the corrupted army stepped forward in unison, and the sky cracked open even further, one terrifying truth settled in. The system had changed. And now, it was choosing who survived, and who became part of it. The ground trembled, not with footsteps, but with transformation. Platforms of familiar arenas fractured. Tiles cracked, glowing circuits snaking across surfaces like veins of a living machine. Walls bent unnaturally, warping into jagged towers of steel and chrome. What was once a colorful battlefield now pulsed with the heartbeat of a new, mechanical world. Fox McCloud's eyes narrowed behind his visor, scanning the horizon as the patterns shifted beneath them. "It's happening," he muttered, voice tight. "He's not just invading. He's merging everything." From above, Eggman's hovering laboratory loomed like a dark sun. Lights blinked in impossible rhythms, cannons rotating and firing as if the world itself obeyed his will. Every stage of Smash, the floating islands, the cosmic plains, the volcanic pits, was bending to a singular pattern. A networked lattice of steel and energy now overlaid every familiar landmark. "Check it out!" Pikachu shouted, dodging a suddenly emerging rail of glowing spikes. "The ground! It's changing!" Kirby floated cautiously, scanning the warped environment. "Something's wrong, but growing," he murmured, feeling the subtle vibrations in the air, the pulse of an intelligence that was not alive in the natural sense. The fighters regrouped on a fractured platform, breathing hard. Even those who had fought Eggman's mechanical copies were tense. Here, the threat wasn't a single opponent. It was the entire world rewriting itself. Zelda's hand hovered over her bow. She gazed at the shifting horizon, eyes wide as the sky above shimmered unnaturally. "This isn't a battle anymore," she said softly, voice trembling with clarity. "This is dimensional corruption." Samus's arm cannon raised instinctively, scanning every shifting platform, every energy spike. "I've never seen technology, anywhere, react like this," she muttered, voice low and tense. "He's merging universes into one controllable system." Below, Mario leapt from a crumbling ledge, narrowly avoiding a cascade of metallic debris. The bricks of his home stage now rotated mechanically, swinging like pendulums. "It's not just stages," he yelled. "It's the rules of everything." And then, the realization hit. It wasn't invasion anymore. It wasn't mere control. It was conversion. Eggman's laughter echoed from above, low and triumphant. "Why settle for chaos when perfection can be engineered?" he called down. "Every fighter, every stage, every law of this universe will obey me, or be rewritten." Fox's wings spread instinctively, preparing to leap from the edge of the platform. He caught a glimpse of the horizon, the stars above, the floating platforms, the energy fields, all aligning into a complex, glowing grid. "He's turning the multiverse into a machine," Fox whispered. "Every reality, compressed into his design." Below, Mewtwo's psychic aura flared violently. The air shimmered as the Pokémon stretched its powers, feeling the unnatural evolution coursing through the energy of the world. "This is wrong," Mewtwo's voice resonated, calm but trembling with power. "It's being forced artificially." Kirby floated closer to Fox, his tiny arms gripping a small piece of debris. "We have to stop it," he said simply. But even as determination sparked in every fighter's eyes, the battlefield moved against them. Platforms twisted midair, swinging like pendulums. Spikes erupted from nowhere. A molten stream of mechanical energy crept slowly upward, threatening to engulf the remaining ground. Samus fired, her beam slicing through the nearest metallic wave. Sparks flew, but as the smoke cleared, the platform itself had reformed, shifted slightly to intercept her trajectory. "He's adapting everything to his system," she said, jaw tight. Mario landed beside Fox and Zelda, surveying the devastation. "We can't just fight him head on," Mario said, voice urgent. "He's not a normal enemy anymore. He's rewriting reality itself." From above, Eggman's shadow darkened the battlefield as his voice cut through the chaotic hum of transformation. "Resist all you want," he said, tone smug, almost casual. "But the world is mine to code. Every thought, every move, every stage will conform." And then, the final warning. The floating platforms merged into a single, massive structure. Metallic spires sprouted, energy grids glowing between them, radiating power that bent even the air around it. Fox's visor glinted as he scanned the structure, mind racing through countless simulations. "If he completes this," he murmured, "every universe, every fighter, integrated into one controllable system." The fighters looked at each other, silent, exhausted. Fear and determination burning in equal measure. Above it all, Eggman activated a colossal surge, sending waves of energy outward. The fractured battlefield quivered. The metallic spires began to extend, reaching toward the skies, forming a lattice of control that threatened to envelope the horizon. "This isn't a battle," Zelda whispered, her voice almost lost in the hum. "It's the end of freedom itself." And in that instant, a new shadow appeared on the edge of the transforming sky. Something massive, something alive, something that wasn't Eggman. The battlefield froze. Every fighter instinctively halted. Every mechanical stage pulsed in response. And the voice that followed, a whisper over the hum of conversion, sent shivers through all. "He's not the only one rewriting this world." The camera of narration pulls back. The battlefield stretches infinitely, metallic veins pulsing. The universe itself is bending. And in the distance, something far older than Eggman stirs. The fight isn't over. Not even close. But now, the stakes are beyond survival. They are beyond resistance. They are universal. The battlefield lay in uneasy silence, broken only by the hum of machinery and the faint crackle of energy coursing through the converted stages. Steel towers pierced the sky, their latticework throbbing with a rhythm that felt alive. Eggman hovered above, perched in his massive flying fortress, a silhouette of smug confidence against a glowing artificial horizon. "Do you feel it?" he called, voice amplified across the lattice of platforms, reverberating in the very bones of the fighters below. "The chaos of your efforts, the inefficiency of your so-called heroism. It is staggering." Mario's fists clenched. Every inch of the transformed world reminded him of all the lives he had fought to protect. The platforms, the warped terrain, the shifting hazards, they were Eggman's proof that order was possible, that control could be absolute. "I don't care about your perfection, Eggman," Mario shouted, leaping across a jagged metallic ledge. "Freedom isn't a system you can code. It's life itself." Behind him, Mewtwo's psychic aura flared, illuminating the night sky with pulses of violet energy. The legendary Pokemon hovered silently, watching the mechanical lattice crawl across the horizon, sensing the artificial evolution in Eggman's designs. This, this is not natural, Mewtwo said, voice calm but carrying a dangerous undercurrent. You are not creating, you are forcing. Evolution requires choice. Change requires struggle, not submission to a machine. Solid Snake, crouched behind a fragment of a shattered stage, analyzed Eggman's fortress. His tactical mind raced through scenarios, weighing survival against ideology. Order, chaos, doesn't matter, he muttered through the comms. This is about survival, and if you want to survive here, you understand the enemy's rules. You adapt, or you die. Eggman's laughter echoed across the battlefield, metallic and condescending. Ah, Snake. Always so pragmatic. And you, Mario, so sentimental. His hands moved across a holographic interface inside his fortress. Lights danced, sending ripples across the converted stages. But consider this, my dear fighters. Chaos is inefficient. Your struggles are slow, messy. My method, my system, is perfection. A wave of energy pulsed outward from the fortress, shaking the platforms below. Mario leapt, narrowly dodging a barrage of mechanical spires that erupted like metallic geysers. Pikachu and Kirby followed, dodging and weaving through the shifting hazard. You're trying to control everything? Fox McCloud called, scanning the lattice with rapid calculations. Not just the battlefield, but reality itself? Eggman's smirk widened. Exactly. Everything you call free is a variable in a system that can be optimized. Power, strength, strategy, all predictable, all controllable. Join me, and I'll show you the efficiency of a world without mistakes. The words hung in the air like a knife. Join me, or become obsolete, Eggman said finally, voice calm, almost patient. Think about it, heroes. You can resist, but why fight when perfection is waiting? Mario's eyes burned with defiance. He landed on a swaying metallic platform, sparks flying as it bent under his weight. We'll never join you, he shouted. No machine can understand what it means to be free. We fight for choice, for the people who can't fight for themselves. Mewtwo floated closer, psychic energy distorting the air around him. Control is a prison, he said, voice echoing with cold logic. You create strength without struggle, evolution without trial, and yet you call it perfection. True power comes from challenge, from freedom. Snake's visor reflected the fortress above, analyzing weak points and escape paths. Perfection, he said slowly, almost to himself. Order isn't perfect. Survival isn't perfect. But it's real. Eggman's hands swept through the holographic interface, and the battlefield shuddered violently. The mechanical lattice pulsed brighter, edges snapping with energy as if testing the fighter's resolve. Your morality, your struggle, your concept of freedom, Eggman said, tone sharp now, almost hungry. All meaningless if you cannot bend to the superior design. You are variables. I am the system. Kirby's eyes glowed as he inhaled, preparing to counter. He paused, small but resolute. We're not variables, he said simply. We're fighters. We fight because we choose to. Eggman's laughter twisted into a roar as he unleashed a torrent of energy. Mechanical constructs bursting from the lattice, spreading across the platforms like a tide of silver and red. Mario leapt, Pikachu's sparks crackling, Mewtwo's aura expanding in a pulse of psychic resistance, Snake calculating his strike. All of them stood together on the trembling stage, embodying a single truth. Resistance was not futile, it was essential. And for a brief, charged moment, the battlefield froze. The lattice quivered. The mechanical spires pulsed with a rhythm, as though listening, calculating. Eggman's voice cut through the tension, calm but undeniable. Consider my offer carefully, heroes. Adapt or fade into obsolescence. The fighters exchanged glances, determination and defiance burning in every eye. Freedom, choice, life itself. Everything they had fought for stood against the perfect, mechanical ideology above them. But in the distance, behind Eggman's fortress, a new shimmer began to ripple through the lattice. Something old, something unbound, something free. The war of ideologies was far from over, and whatever it was, it promised to change the rules. Again. The battlefield was quiet, but not in peace. Metallic spires twisted toward a stormy sky, their sharp silhouettes cutting across the crimson horizon. Smoke curled from the shattered remnants of platforms, and the hum of machinery filled the air like a pulse. Slow, deliberate, calculating. Somewhere above, Eggman's fortress loomed, lights flickering, as though alive and waiting. Mewtwo floated in the distance, aura flickering with hesitant pulses. The psychic waves of power coursing through the battlefield were unlike anything he had felt before. The mechanical fighters Eggman had created weren't just strong, they were adaptive. They learned, anticipated, evolved. Is this evolution? Mewtwo whispered to himself, voice low, almost hesitant. Faster, smarter, capable of surpassing natural limits, but without choice, without struggle. His eyes scanned the latticework of metallic stages below. Mario and Link continued to fight desperately, but even their most calculated strikes faltered against robotic versions that mirrored their every move. The weight of the realization pressed down on him. Perhaps the line between creation and control was blurrier than he had thought. Snake crouched behind a jagged platform fragment, scanning for weak points, noting every movement in Eggman's fortress. They adapt fast, he muttered, faster than anything organic. Could be dangerous or useful. Useful? Mewtwo echoed, voice tight, almost defensive. Snake's gaze didn't leave the distant fortress. Depends on who controls it. Efficiency isn't evil. It's neutral. Strategy, Mewtwo. Think in terms of survival. Mewtwo's eyes narrowed, psychic energy flickering uncertainly. He had always believed in the purity of natural evolution, the choices that shaped power and morality. But these machines, they weren't alive, yet their growth was undeniable, their power undeniable. Could there be a point, he said slowly, almost to himself, where artificial evolution surpasses natural limitations? Could it be better? The thought chilled him. The weight of the question pressed against his mind, heavy as the gravity of a collapsing world. He wasn't questioning morality. He was questioning survival. And if survival demanded adaptation, would he deny it? Meanwhile, Mario skidded across a conveyor of molten steel, narrowly dodging a surge of mechanical spikes. Pikachu leapt beside him, sparks flickering, and Kirby zipped between gaps in the latticework. All of them were fighting instinctively, but even they could feel the tide beginning to shift. From above, Eggman's voice cut across the battlefield. Calm, smooth, convincing. "You see, my dear fighters," he said, tone almost gentle. "This world doesn't need chaos. It doesn't need struggle. With me, with my system, you can be perfect. You can be strong. You can survive without the inefficiencies of failure." Mario growled, fists clenched. "We'll never follow a machine," he shouted, voice rising above the metallic hum. "Freedom isn't optional." But not all ears heard the words with the same conviction. Mewtwo hovered in silence, psychic aura trembling as conflicting impulses wrestled inside him. He had always believed in the path of struggle, but the reality before him was undeniable. These machines, these artificial fighters, they adapted faster than any natural being could. They learned. They improved. And they did so without hesitation, without fear. Could perfection be attainable? Mewtwo whispered to the wind, barely audible. Snake, watching from below, tilted his head. "It's not about perfection," he said quietly. "It's about choice. Control what you can. Use what's available. Adapt. Or die." The words, practical and devoid of emotion, struck a chord. Mewtwo's aura flickered again. He felt the pull of possibility, the dangerous allure of joining Eggman's system. Not out of loyalty, but because it could enhance survival. A ripple of movement spread across the battlefield as Eggman's mechanical soldiers advanced, spreading methodically, assimilating destroyed terrain, converting the environment into mechanized zones. The very world seemed to lean toward his ideology. Mewtwo rose higher, psychic power radiating outward. He looked at Mario, Pikachu, and the others, their faces set in determination, and then back at the lattice of mechanical perfection growing below Eggman's fortress. "I don't agree," he murmured, "but perhaps some knowledge can only be gained if I walk this path." The first tendrils of internal conflict gripped him, quiet but unstoppable. From afar, Fox McCloud watched, scanning for potential allies and threats. "Mewtwo," he murmured, reading the subtle shift in the psychic aura. "He's wavering." It was subtle, almost imperceptible. But in a war defined by ideologies, even a single mind tipping could change everything. Eggman's laughter rang across the battlefield, light and triumphant. "Ah, I see the cracks forming," he said, tone almost indulgent. "Even the strongest question their place in the universe. That is the beauty of adaptation." Mario looked up at Mewtwo, sensing the hesitation. A bead of sweat ran down his brow. Not fear, but concern. Not everyone would resist. Not everyone would remain free. And the battlefield, already broken, was about to fracture further. A flicker of electric light raced across Eggman's fortress, signaling new plans unfolding, algorithms calculating the loyalty of every mind, organic or artificial. Mewtwo's aura pulsed uncertainly, caught between instinct and logic, morality and survival. The war had just shifted, and the unexpected alliance, whether forced, chosen, or inevitable, was already beginning. In the shadow of the mechanical lattice, one truth lingered. Not everyone was resisting anymore, and some choices would change the course of Smash forever. A low hum vibrated across the fractured battlefield, resonating through every metallic shard, every trembling platform. The sky above twisted in stormy swirls, streaked with unnatural green and purple light. The residue of energies Eggman had harvested, calculated, and fused. Somewhere deep in his fortress, machinery whirred and clicked with surgical precision, and every sensor, every monitor reflected one single objective: perfection. The fighters on the battlefield had grown wary. Some had begun to notice the subtle changes in the mechanical enemies they faced. Adaptation had become instantaneous. Patterns that had once been exploitable now shifted mid-combat. Even Fox, scanning the battlefield with his visor, felt it, a presence unlike anything he'd analyzed before. And then, a column of light split the horizon, brilliant and blinding, forcing all attention toward Eggman's central laboratory. The fortress itself seemed to pulse, breathing, expanding. Within its core, a fusion of wires, circuits, and energy cores twisted into something organic, something terrifyingly intelligent. Kirby's eyes widened instinctively, senses tingling. He floated backwards slightly, puffing up instinctively. Something was wrong, more than wrong, unnatural. This, Kirby stammered, voice trembling. It's thinking. Eggman's figure emerged from the shadows, arms raised theatrically. His voice rang clear over the mechanical hum. "Behold, my masterpiece," he declared. "A creation beyond failure, beyond hesitation. A warrior who learns faster than any organic mind, adapts faster than instinct itself. This is perfection." The air itself seemed to tighten around the words. Fighters braced instinctively, the aura of threat palpable. Link's hand gripped the master sword tightly, yet even he felt a shiver run down his spine. Samus raised her arm cannon, scanning for weak points, but the machine before them defied categorization. From the central chamber, the fusion began to take form. It pulsed first as a mass of flowing energy, almost liquid, yet metallic fragments crystallized within, forming armor and limbs. Each segment carried a familiar silhouette: Mario's determined stride, Pikachu's crackling energy, Samus's precision, Kirby's adaptability. But none were exact. The features blurred and shifted, flowing into each other like water poured over steel. Fox's visor beeped rapidly, alarms blaring. "Impossible," he muttered. "Data streams, multiple combatants, integrated into a single entity. It's learning in real time." The entity solidified, and with each movement, it seemed to test its own boundaries. A hand flicked outward, mimicking a hammer swing, then adjusted mid-motion to avoid an invisible obstacle. A kick extended, calculating weight and force with precision, faster than any living fighter could react. Kirby floated closer, sensing the danger intuitively. His eyes flicked toward Mario, whose face was grim. "Kirby, that thing knows us. All of us. Every move. Every reaction." Mario's voice was steady, but tense. "Adaptation beyond comprehension," Mewtwo said, hovering above, psychic aura pulsing. "Eggman has fused multiple streams. Data. Consciousness. It's not just copying. It's predicting, evolving, instantly." The battlefield tensed as the fusion weapon flexed its limbs, as though testing the air itself. Sparks flew from the metal latticework beneath, reacting to its energy. Zelda raised her hand, magic humming, but even she felt hesitation creep in. This wasn't a fight she could predict with old tactics. This was something that changed the rules mid-combat. Eggman's laughter echoed across the transformed platforms. "You see, organic flaws are meaningless. Chaos is inefficient. Order, perfection, now stands before you. Watch as my creation renders instinct obsolete." A pulse of energy radiated outward, knocking several fighters backward. Mario leapt, narrowly avoiding an impact that would have shattered his defenses, Samus fired her cannon, beams bouncing harmlessly off the fusion's armor as it adjusted, shifting, learning with each shot. Even Kirby's inhaling attack barely dented it. This isn't just strong, Kirby whispered, voice quivering. It's alive, in a way that we aren't. Mewtwo floated higher, aura expanding in psychic resonance. He could feel the calculations, the streams of combat data running through the fusion's core. A mind of pure adaptive logic, unhindered by hesitation, morality, or fear. It's perfection, he said softly, almost afraid to admit it. From the edge of the battlefield, Fox adjusted his visor again. We're not just fighting an army, he muttered, voice tense. We're facing a singularity, and it's learning faster than any of us can strategize. The fusion weapon stepped forward. Each motion was precise, measured, terrifyingly confident. Its eyes, an amalgamation of light and energy, fixed on the fighters, and in that instant every instinct screamed the same warning. Nothing could prepare them. Eggman's voice rang out over the hum, triumphant and cold. And now, let the ultimate test begin. A ripple of energy raced across the battlefield, crackling like a storm ready to strike. The fusion weapon flexed, calculating the outcome of the next instant before it even occurred. Kirby floated back, puffing up, aura trembling. Mario's eyes narrowed, fist clenched, but the unease was undeniable. Samus scanned for vulnerabilities, while Mewtwo's psychic pulse grew stronger, conflicted, uncertain. One truth was undeniable. Eggman had created something beyond them all, something that could not be ignored. And in that moment, the battlefield itself seemed to hold its breath. This is perfection, Eggman repeated, almost reverently. And for the first time, the fighters realized perfection was about to be unleashed. The war had entered a new era, a singular, terrifying era, and nothing would ever be the same. The battlefield was no longer a single front. It had become a fractured mirror of conflict. Smoke curled through the sky, mingling with the unnatural green haze Eggman's machines emitted, casting long shadows over shattered platforms. Each fighter moved differently now, not in coordination, but in hesitation, in wariness. Trust, the invisible thread that had bound these heroes, was fraying. Mewtwo hovered silently above the chaos, psychic aura glowing faintly, almost ethereal against the storm of sparks and mechanical debris. He studied the battlefield, calculating, observing. Every move, every counterattack by Eggman's fusion weapon, every adaptive strike by his mechanical replicas. It all spoke of precision, logic, efficiency, and Mewtwo felt an unfamiliar stirring of doubt. Perfection, or evolution beyond organic limitations. The psychic being pondered internally. If the mind can evolve faster than instinct, faster than trial and error, what are we really fighting for? The hesitation was subtle, but noticeable. Pikachu darted past him, cheeks sparking, and noticed the pause. A small frown creased the electric warrior's face. Mewtwo? Pikachu called, voice urgent. Don't doubt yourself now. But Mewtwo didn't respond. He merely drifted further away, a ghost of resolve lingering, a strategist's mind now weighing possibilities Eggman had introduced into the chaos. Meanwhile, Snake crouched behind the fractured remains of a metallic platform, scanning the horizon. His tactical instincts had never failed him, yet this battlefield tested every assumption he had ever made. The fusion weapon, the adaptive armies, the environments morphing into mechanical death traps. Everything screamed order imposed by logic. Snake's eyes narrowed, calculating survival odds. Perfection isn't evil, he muttered under his breath, voice low, measured. Efficiency, order, survival. Maybe that's what we need to stop getting killed. He didn't speak to anyone else. He didn't need to. Strategy, pragmatism, and the willingness to compromise with reality had always defined him. And now, as he watched Mario and Samus charge headlong into overwhelming odds, he realized that blind heroism might no longer be enough. Mario, however, would not bend. His eyes blazed with the familiar fire of defiance, hands clenched in fists, voice ringing out across the battlefield. "We fight together! We fight for freedom!" Eggman may think he can calculate every move, but he can't calculate courage. Samus rolled her shoulders, scanning the mechanical horizon, noting the fractures forming within the team. "Courage alone won't save us," she said softly, almost to herself, yet loud enough that Mario caught it. "We need precision, strategy, and unity. We're splitting, and he knows it." Mario's response was unwavering, almost desperate. "Then we'll remind them why we fight." The tension wasn't just in words, it manifested in actions. Kirby hovered nervously between two approaching mechanical hordes, looking at Mewtwo drifting higher into the storm. Pikachu zipped past Snake, trying to pull him into coordinated cover fire, but Snake's focus was elsewhere. The battlefield became a patchwork of intent. Some fighters charging forward with faith, others calculating, hesitating, questioning, wondering if Eggman's logic held merit. And above them all, Eggman watched, eyes glittering behind his goggles. "Ah," he said softly, almost to himself, savoring the discord. "Chaos among heroes. This is far more efficient than brute force." A sudden tremor shook the platforms as the fusion weapon advanced, analyzing patterns, adjusting mid-step to the fractured coordination of the heroes. Kirby's small form darted left, inhaling and puffing up, but the machine adapted instantly. Mario swung his fist, only to find the weapon's block had shifted milliseconds before impact. Even Fox, from a distance, realized the danger. "They're not just fighting Eggman," he said grimly, scanning data on his visor. "They're fighting themselves now. Every hesitation, every doubt. He's exploiting it." Mewtwo's internal conflict deepened as psychic waves clashed invisibly with the adaptive fusion weapon. Snake weighed each possible move, calculating who would survive if the team fractured further. Mario's shout of defiance echoed over the battlefield, but the cracks were visible, widening, threatening to turn strategy into chaos. From the center of Eggman's fortress, his laughter carried across the skies, sharp and deliberate. "Perfect," he whispered, almost reverently. "Perfection isn't just in the weapon. It's in breaking the spirit of those who would oppose it." The heroes faltered, if only for a moment. The team that had once seemed invincible, united by purpose and courage, now looked like fragments of doubt scattered across a battlefield they could no longer fully read. And as the fusion weapon advanced, adapting to the fractures within the heroes, Eggman's calculated smile widened. The team was breaking, and Eggman hadn't even gone all out yet. The horizon shifted unnaturally as mechanical structures began to rise, ominous and foreboding, heralding the next stage of the war. The fracture within the heroes was no longer subtle. It was a wound, visible, dangerous, and spreading. And in the shadow of that fracture, every fighter knew a chilling truth. The war was no longer just about strength or courage. It was about ideology. And soon choices would have to be made. Choices that could change the battlefield and the heroes themselves, forever. The battlefield had grown colder, sharper. Mechanical structures jutted out of fractured landscapes, their chrome surfaces glinting under a dim, artificial sky. Sparks flew as Eggman's fusion weapon recalibrated, adapting to every hero's movement with terrifying precision. Yet amid the chaos, a different kind of tremor rippled through the ranks. One not of fire or steel, but of trust. Mewtwo floated silently above the shattered ground, psychic aura flickering like a candle in the wind. His eyes, usually cold and unreadable, now betrayed a storm of conflict. Around him the battle raged. Kirby inhaled and puffed. Mario launched into desperate strikes. Pikachu zipped between platforms, sparks illuminating the tension. But Mewtwo's focus was elsewhere. He was watching Eggman's core laboratory, calculating, probing, sensing the threads of energy pulsing from the fusion systems. There is knowledge here, power beyond organic limits, Mewtwo thought, the psychic energy around him trembling with suppressed intensity. If I can understand it, if I can evolve faster, perhaps the balance can shift. The moment his thoughts solidified, Mewtwo descended from the smoke-laden sky, landing with a shockwave that rattled nearby debris. Mario's fists clenched. Pikachu's fur bristled. Snake crouched, tactical eyes narrowing. Mewtwo, wait, Mario shouted, voice carrying over the mechanical hum of Eggman's machinery. You're not thinking... But Mewtwo's gaze was unflinching, eyes fixed on Eggman. I'm not joining you, he said, voice cold yet calm. I'm observing, learning. There is a difference. Eggman's laugh echoed across the battlefield, a mixture of triumph and amusement. Ah, exactly what I wanted to hear, he said, adjusting the controls of his fusion weapon. Mewtwo, you understand the elegance of evolution. Together, we can surpass chaos itself. The heroes froze, shock rippling through the ranks. Mario's voice cracked, a mixture of anger and disbelief. You'd ally with him, even for a moment? Mewtwo did not answer, instead channeling psychic energy toward Eggman's systems, tapping, probing, analyzing. Every strike the fusion weapon made, every adaptive maneuver it executed, it whispered secrets to Mewtwo, and he absorbed them, learning faster than any algorithm could. Samus gritted her teeth, scanning the unfolding scene. This isn't cooperation, she muttered. He's feeding Eggman intel and gaining it, but the effect, it's destabilizing us. Snake's fingers tightened around his rifle. Trust is gone, he said softly. Once it fractures, the battlefield changes. We're not just fighting Eggman anymore. We're fighting the consequences of doubt. Kirby hovered above the ground, eyes wide, sensing the psychic feedback. He inhaled rapidly, feeling the weight of the shift. Poyo, he murmured, the sound almost plaintive. Even the smallest hearts on the field felt the chill of betrayal. Mewtwo's internal conflict was palpable. This isn't loyalty. It's necessity. The thought pulsed through him like a rhythm, steady and unavoidable. He had weighed the cost of joining Eggman, measured it against the potential gain. And in that calculation, evolution, adaptation, was worth the temporary fracture. Mario stepped forward, fists clenched, face blazing. Evolution, or excuse to betray your friends. You're stronger than that. The psychic entity's eyes softened for a fleeting instant, but his resolve held. Strength without understanding is irrelevant. I will return, but first, I must comprehend. Eggman's grin widened, mechanical fingers dancing across his controls. Excellent. Witness the harmony of thought and technology. Mewtwo, your insight will accelerate perfection beyond imagination. The fusion weapon pulsed brighter, humming with an almost organic rhythm as Mewtwo's psychic energy intertwined with the circuitry. Sparks of power danced across the battlefield, blinding and intoxicating. The heroes scrambled, desperately coordinating against adaptive machines, now guided by insights only Mewtwo could see. Mario swung a punch that collided with a mechanical clone of himself, an almost perfect replica, yet it moved in ways Mario hadn't anticipated. Pikachu dodged a lethal energy beam by mere milliseconds, thanks to instinct, but the battlefield's edge was tilting. Snake's calculations no longer matched reality. Each move became a gamble against both Eggman's weapon and the unforeseen intelligence feeding it. And yet, amid the chaos, the most damaging blow was invisible. The team's cohesion, its very foundation of trust, was splintered. Words of encouragement faltered. Coordinated attacks hesitated. Doubt had a shape, and it moved like a shadow across the battlefield. Eggman's laughter pierced the tension, triumphant and cold. Yes, yes, witness the fracture of ideals, the corruption of trust. With insight and calculation, even heroes can be redirected. The hero's eyes met briefly, understanding without words. The battle was no longer just about survival or strength. It was about loyalty, belief, and the perilous weight of choice. Mewtwo, standing alongside Eggman for a moment longer, did not smile. He did not celebrate. He simply absorbed, calculated, and prepared. And in that instant, the heroes realized the most dangerous weapon of all had already been unleashed. Betrayal. The battlefield had shifted irrevocably. The heroes had lost more than just a skirmish. They had lost certainty, trust, and the comforting knowledge that their allies were beyond question. And Eggman, he reveled in it. The horizon darkened, machinery rising like jagged teeth against the smoky sky, and the fusion weapon's adaptive core glowed with newfound intelligence. Mewtwo's alliance was temporary, but the fracture it caused would echo far longer than any single battle. And as the heroes regrouped, hearts heavy with doubt, Eggman's voice carried over the field once more. Welcome to the next stage of evolution. The world itself shuddered. Platforms twisted and reformed midair, colors bleeding into one another as if reality had forgotten its own rules. The sky flickered, torn between its familiar hues and a mechanical gray that pulsed with Eggman's influence. Sparks rained from nowhere, and the echoes of crashing metal reverberated across battlefields that once felt eternal. At the center of this chaos floated Master Hand, its towering form trembling, energy pulses stuttering like a heartbeat in freefall. Authority had always flowed from it, a constant in the ever-shifting landscape of Smash. Now, every gesture it made faltered. Every command fizzled into static. Something, someone, was overriding the system it had maintained for centuries. Fox crouched behind a fractured platform, scanning the horizon with heightened senses. His visor glinted, reflecting the digital fractures spreading like cracks across the environment. This isn't just an invasion, he muttered. It's a rewrite. He's rewriting the rules of everything. Mario, fists clenched, lunged at a mechanical soldier that had emerged from the warped ground, but his strike passed through it like smoke. What the... The plumber stumbled back, shocked, as the enemy flickered, shifting its form into something new, something unexpected. It was adaptation, and it was instantaneous. Nearby, Kirby hovered anxiously, inhaling the chaotic energy around them. Each breath seemed to pull fragments of corrupted code into his body, making him shrink and grow unpredictably. Poyo, he whispered, a tremor in his voice betraying the fear he could not articulate. Even the light-hearted heroism of the pink puffball felt small against the scale of Eggman's growing dominion. Snake's eyes scanned the battlefield methodically, calculating, analyzing, but even he felt the creeping despair. Systems failing, he said, voice tight. I've faced impossible odds before, but this is more than machines. This is the world itself unraveling. And then it happened. Massive ripple tore across the sky, as if someone had dragged a hand through reality itself. Platforms dissolved into digital fragments midair, gravity inverted in pockets, sending fighters tumbling in unpredictable arcs. The ground beneath them warped into jagged metallic edges, and a chorus of alarms, both mechanical and psychic, screeched in unison. Master Hand's enormous fingers twitched, trying to stabilize the fragments of reality, but each movement only triggered another glitch. Its authority was no match for Eggman's growing system. The digital overlays, the mechanical zones, the adaptive fusion constructs, the real-time environmental rewrites had become self-aware, and the system that once regulated the battles could no longer contain it. Mario turned to Fox, urgency in his voice. We can't fight like this. The platforms. Everything's changing. How do we even aim? Fox gritted his teeth, eyes narrowing. We adapt. We move. We survive. But I've never seen anything like this. Not even in simulations. In the midst of the chaos, Eggman's voice boomed, amplified across the fractured dimensions. Ah, yes! Feel it, heroes! Every rule you knew is gone. Every law of your precious universe bends to me now. Even Pikachu, normally a spark of pure energy and courage, hesitated, sparks sputtering off its cheeks as reality glitched around it. The electric mouse's instincts screamed that the battlefield was no longer predictable. Nothing was predictable. Mewtwo hovered above, psychic aura quivering. His alliance with Eggman had provided knowledge, yes, but even he had not foreseen the extent of destabilization. The fusion systems were spreading faster than calculations could anticipate, and even his prodigious mind strained against the cascade of variables. This is beyond evolution, Mewtwo muttered, voice taut. Even adaptation has limits. Snake's fingers itched on his rifle, but even precision could not pierce the fabric of this collapsing reality. Enemy units flickered in and out, sometimes materializing behind him, sometimes vanishing into thin air. The battlefield had become a three-dimensional labyrinth of uncertainty, where every action carried unforeseen consequences. Master Hand roared, a soundless scream that vibrated through the digital layers, attempting to reassert control. But the gesture was meaningless. Fragments of its own form began glitching, one finger vanishing, another stretching beyond its natural proportion, a visual testament to the chaos overtaking the system. Mario slammed a fist into a jagged platform that flickered between solidity and void. "We can't lose hope!" he shouted, but even his voice sounded tinny, swallowed by the cacophony of collapsing code. "We have to keep fighting. Together." Fox leapt across a fractured section of sky, laser rifle firing blindly, tracking enemies that existed in one frame and disappeared the next. "Hope isn't enough this time," he muttered. "We need strategy. We need—" He paused, the thought hanging unfinished. Survival itself was the strategy now. Eggman's laughter rolled across the glitching heavens. "Yes! Panic! Confusion! Delightful chaos converted into perfect order. Witness your reality crumble, and know that this is only the beginning." The battlefield twisted further, fragments of stages from countless universes colliding and overlapping. Mushroom Kingdom merged with planet Zebes, with dreamland fragments drifting like debris. Every step was uncertain, every jump a gamble. Even experienced fighters faltered. The heroes regrouped, breaths ragged, eyes wide. They were still standing. Barely. But the battlefield, the very world they had always known, was gone. And amid the digital chaos, one thought lingered, unspoken but universally understood. If the system itself could collapse, what chance did they truly have? Eggman's shadow loomed over them all, triumphant. And in the distance, Master Hand twitched, powerless, as reality itself began to glitch uncontrollably. The world of Smash was dying, and somewhere within the fractured sky, a new threat prepared to emerge. The sky cracked open with a deafening roar, shards of reality tumbling like broken glass across the battlefield. Fractured fragments of countless universes collided, fusing Mushroom Kingdom's rolling hills with Hyrule's craggy cliffs and the industrial sprawl of Green Hill Zone. Smoke and sparks mingled, painting the horizon with chaos as Eggman's machines surged forward, a relentless tide of steel and malice. Mario charged first, his fists ignited with determination, leaping over a collapsing platform as a mechanical scorpion lunged from below. "Let's go, everyone!" he shouted, voice cutting through the cacophony of explosions. Pikachu sparked beside him, electricity arcing wildly as rogue anomalies flickered into being, creatures born from corrupted data, their forms unstable, yet horrifyingly effective. Above, Kirby hovered cautiously, inhaling fragments of enemy drones to assimilate their adaptive abilities. His small form darted between beams of light and digital fragments, dodging attacks that seemed to anticipate his every move. Even the cheerful hero was pressed to his limits, each breath a fight against the collapsing world itself. Snake crouched behind a chunk of floating terrain, scanning the battlefield with cold precision. "We're surrounded," he muttered, eyes narrowing as he marked trajectories of rogue entities and mechanical reinforcements. "And they're learning, faster than anything I've seen." His rifle barked, bullets disintegrating the nearest anomaly, but two more emerged instantly from the fragments of the fractured landscape. Fox soared overhead, twin blasters firing in precise arcs. "Keep moving, keep attacking. Don't give them a moment to consolidate." His words carried weight. Strategy was fragile here, but still necessary. The heroes' coordination wavered under the scale of Eggman's assault, yet they clung to it like lifelines. Eggman's laughter rumbled across the battlefield, amplified by the distortions of reality. "Yes, that's it. Fight, struggle, adapt. Every move you make feeds the system. Every breath you take strengthens my perfection." From the sky descended the ultimate fusion entity, a hulking amalgamation of corrupted fighter data, twisting and shifting as it absorbed and adapted mid-combat. Its eyes glowed with analytical coldness, and even seasoned warriors felt a shiver run down their spines. Mewtwo hovered nearby, psychic energy flaring as he attempted to analyze the fusion monstrosity. "It's learning at a rate beyond any evolutionary precedent," he said, voice tight with unease. "We can't just attack. It adapts instantly. Every strategy becomes obsolete the moment it registers." The battlefield descended into a maelstrom. Platforms vanished underfoot, replaced by jagged metallic constructs. Entire skies flickered with digital distortions as anomalies collided with familiar heroes. Sonic zipped through the chaos, dodging energy beams and adaptive drones, his speed a slender advantage in an environment where physics itself was unreliable. "We can't let Eggman win," he shouted, narrowly avoiding a fusion entity strike that warped the air around him. Mario, seeing Fox struggle to target a flickering adversary, leapt between them, fists striking a corrupted robot into fragmented pixels. "We fight together!" he bellowed. Yet even his rallying cry could not mask the fear creeping through the hero's ranks. Allies blinked out of existence, only to reappear moments later in altered positions. Confusing, disorienting, relentless. From the horizon, a swarm of Eggman's airships descended, each armed with adaptive weaponry. The ultimate fusion entity shifted its mass, growing tentacles that struck indiscriminately, combining every known attack pattern of the fighters it had consumed. Pikachu's sparks crackled. Kirby's inhalations strained against the ever-changing form, and Snake's calm tactical mind reeled under the overwhelming complexity. Amidst the chaos, Mario locked eyes with Mewtwo, whose calm exterior had begun to fracture under the stress. "Mewtwo, we need you. Focus. Now!" he cried, fists poised for another strike. Mewtwo's aura flared brightly, psychic energy rippling outward, yet the entity absorbed even this, contorting its shape to counter. I am trying," Mewtwo said, his voice laced with frustration, "but perfection is adaptive. I can't keep up alone." Fox fired one final volley, dodging a newly formed digital spike that erupted from the ground. "We're losing control," he shouted. "The battlefield isn't ours anymore." Eggman's voice echoed from the central nexus, smug and unyielding. "Perfect order, heroes. Witness the culmination of your chaos. Transformed into obedience, resistance is irrelevant." The clash reached a crescendo. Explosions ripped through floating platforms. Beams of energy cut across corrupted skies, and the roar of fighters collided with mechanical shrieks of Eggman's army. For a fleeting moment, time seemed to freeze, a tableau of desperation, courage, and the collapsing reality that surrounded them. And in that moment, every fighter understood the truth. There was no turning back. The world of Smash, their home, their battleground, had been irrevocably changed. Survival would demand more than strength. It would demand unity, sacrifice, and an understanding of the enemy unlike anything they had ever faced. From the twisted apex of a collapsing fortress, Eggman's laughter rolled across the horizon. "Fight or be consumed by perfection," he bellowed, watching as the ultimate war of worlds began in earnest. The heroes braced themselves, hearts pounding, aware that nothing, no skill, no speed, no strategy, would guarantee victory in a battlefield where reality itself was their opponent. And above the carnage, the fusion monstrosity shifted, eyes glowing like twin suns of calculation. The war of worlds had begun. The battlefield hung in suspended chaos. A fragmented world of floating platforms, shattered skies, and distorted landscapes. Smoke and sparks wove through the air like veins of fire, carrying the echoes of explosions and screams. Eggman's laughter still cut through the din, but now it carried a new tone, one that hinted at awe, even uncertainty. High above the remnants of what was once battlefield, Mario and Pikachu landed on a crumbling ledge, panting, surveying the havoc around them. "Something's different," Mario muttered, eyes narrowing. "Eggman's strong, but there's something behind him." Pikachu's ears twitched, sparks crackling nervously as it sensed a pattern in the chaos, an order that wasn't Eggman's alone. Eggman, perched atop the partially reconstructed fusion fortress, grinned wildly as his machines adapted and shifted mid-combat. "You think you understand the system? You think I'm merely controlling it?" he shouted, voice reverberating across the fractured air. I'm the mastermind of evolution, the architect of perfection. But the world itself trembled under his words, not in submission, but in warning. Reality flickered in strange, unnatural ways. Platforms dissolved into code mid-step. Skies cracked like glass. And entities once allied with the heroes glitched violently, their forms corrupting and reforming unpredictably. Eggman's control, it seemed, was only part of a much larger equation. Snake crouched in the shadows of a broken arena, analyzing patterns in the chaos. He's outmatched, he murmured into his calm. This isn't just Eggman's doing. There's something above him, something guiding the system. His voice was low, laced with disbelief, as fragments of corrupted fighters collided in unpredictable arcs. It's like the rules themselves are bending to someone else's will. From the periphery, Mewtwo hovered, psychic energy flaring in defensive spirals. I sense it too, he said, voice tight. The network of control. Eggman is a node. He isn't the root. He never was. His gaze pierced the fusion monstrosity below, watching as it adapted faster than any evolutionary principle he knew. Someone, or something, has been pulling the strings from beyond our perception. The ultimate fusion entity convulsed violently, momentarily collapsing into a swirl of raw data before reforming into an even more terrifying hybrid, absorbing corrupted energies from both machines and fighters alike. Even Eggman flinched, adjusting his devices frantically. No, this wasn't part of the plan. Mario leapt forward, fists blazing, striking a corrupted Mecha Koopa mid-attack. It's not over yet. Whoever's behind this will face them together. His words were fierce, yet even his courage was tinged with unease. The battlefield was no longer a contest of strength. It was a labyrinth of manipulation, of reality bending to a hidden hand. A sudden rift tore open in the sky, vertical and jagged, and a figure emerged, suspended in a column of pure energy. Its form was vaguely humanoid, yet comprised of streams of shifting code and shadowed light. The heroes froze mid-action, their attacks halted by the sheer magnitude of presence. Eggman's grin faltered, replaced by a flicker of fear. What is that? He screamed, voice breaking as he scrambled to stabilize his machines. I am the master. I am the ultimate mind. The figure spoke, not with words, but with an aura of absolute authority that pressed against the minds of every fighter. Reality warped with each pulse of its presence. Mario's resolve hardened, but he could feel his own senses bending, the rules of combat fluctuating unpredictably. Pikachu's sparks flared defensively, Kirby's inhalation stuttered, and even Snake's calculated precision felt undermined by a force beyond comprehension. Mewtwo's eyes widened. It's controlling Eggman. He's a conduit, not the architect, just a player. His psychic aura surged, trying to probe the entity, but the energy rebuffed him, twisting perception itself. This is bigger than anything we've faced. It's omnipresent, omnipotent. The entity's attention seemed to sweep across the battlefield, evaluating, calculating. Eggman shrank back into his control platform, muttering curses and adjusting levers frantically. No, I can override it. But the machines around him began to glitch, collapsing into digital dust. The ultimate fusion entity hesitated, recoiling from the invisible force. Mario charged forward again, fists blazing, voice carrying the weight of defiance. We don't need to understand everything to fight. But even as he struck a corrupted foe, the world around him warped, Attacks that should have landed phased through. Platforms dissolved beneath him, and shadows of unknown enemies flickered at the edge of perception. From above, the figure pulsed, a silent judgment, and a single thought seemed to echo in every mind. Was Eggman ever really in control? Or were we all just pieces in a game far larger than any of us imagined? The battlefield stilled, momentarily, as reality itself seemed to hesitate. The heroes, machines, and anomalies paused, each aware that the war had shifted from physical combat to something far more dangerous. A battle for understanding and survival against a force that could rewrite the very laws of Smash itself. Eggman's face twisted in panic and rage, realizing for the first time that he might not be the apex mind after all. No, I created... His words were swallowed by a wave of static energy, the hidden mastermind asserting its presence fully. And as the energy surged, warping the battlefield further, the heroes felt it, deep in their bones. The true war was only beginning. A shadow over control. A question of ultimate authority. Was Eggman the villain, or merely the pawn? And above them all, the hidden mastermind watched. The remnants of the Smash battlefield stretched into a fractured horizon, jagged platforms suspended in a storm of raw energy. Sparks of corrupted code danced through the air like fireflies, illuminating the chaos that had become their world. Somewhere beyond the chaos, Eggman's voice boomed, metallic and triumphant, carrying over the ruin. You've endured everything, but this is where evolution reaches its pinnacle. Mario stood on a crumbling platform, fists clenched, eyes locked on the monolithic figure before him. Eggman's final form, a fusion of machinery, corrupted fighter data, and glowing energy. The villain's body pulsed as if alive, adapting to the very laws of Smash itself. Beside Mario, Kirby inhaled sharply, cheeks glowing pink, ready to absorb and replicate whatever powers were necessary to survive. Pikachu's sparks flared, electricity crackling across the fractured ground. The heroes were battered, exhausted, but unbroken. Snake crouched in the shadows, surveying the battlefield with his trained eye. All units focus. Don't get caught off guard, he muttered into his calm, though no one else needed the reminder. The ground beneath them quivered as Eggman's colossal limbs shifted, data streams unraveling and reassembling like living architecture. We're not just fighting him, Snake murmured. We're fighting the system itself. Eggman's laugh reverberated through the void. Try if you must. Every move you make, every attack you launch, it feeds my creation. You are the stepping stones to perfection. His voice cut through reality, bending it slightly, the air shimmering around him like a distorted mirror. Mario leapt first, launching himself towards the giant, landing a crushing punch on Eggman's armored torso. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and the fusion entity staggered, only to instantly adapt, thickening its defenses in the blink of an eye. It's learning too fast, Kirby gasped, floating forward, ready to counter. With a sudden inhale, Kirby absorbed a fragment of Eggman's adaptive energy, emerging with a swirling new power, enhanced but fragile. From above, Mewtwo descended, psychic energy flaring in a defensive shield. We must strike together, he called, voice echoing through the chaotic air. Divide and adapt. We cannot let him evolve unchecked. Mario and Kirby exchanged a glance, understanding the urgency. Every second they hesitated allowed Eggman's form to assimilate new strategies, new powers, and new threats. The battlefield became a storm of coordinated chaos. Mario smashed through corrupted drones. Kirby absorbed attacks and mirrored abilities in real time. Pikachu's lightning arcs tore through waves of adaptive minions, and Snake's calculated shots disrupted the flow of Eggman's energy. Each attack landed, each strategy tested, but Eggman's final form adjusted, its body twisting, morphing, and countering with terrifying speed. Your resistance is inefficient, Eggman bellowed, swinging a mechanical arm that sliced through a floating platform, sending Kirby and Mario tumbling. Perfection demands sacrifice. The energy around him pulsed violently, threatening to engulf the very air. Mewtwo telekinetically stabilized his allies mid-fall, eyes narrowing. No, we're not pieces in your experiment. A sudden pulse radiated from Eggman, warping reality itself. Platforms vanished beneath the hero's feet. Corrupted duplicates of themselves attacked from unexpected angles, and time itself seemed to stutter. It's too much. The system can't be beaten conventionally, Snake growled, taking cover behind a crumbling spire. In that instant, Mario made a choice. We combine everything, our hearts, our strength, our courage. He leapt toward Kirby, forming a perfect strike formation. Kirby inhaled, merging Mario's momentum with his own copied powers. Pikachu charged alongside them, sparks leaping like firecrackers, while Mewtwo focused every ounce of psychic energy to stabilize their combined assault. They struck simultaneously, fists, lightning, and psychic energy converging on Eggman's chest. A shockwave erupted, distorting the very air, tearing streams of corrupted energy apart. For a brief, dazzling moment, Eggman's form shuddered, the adaptive systems faltering under the unprecedented unity of the hero's assault. But victory came at a price. The energy backlash sent the battlefield into violent convulsions. Platforms collapsed, the sky cracked, and the heroes were thrown across the chaos. Mario gritted his teeth, landing hard on a crumbling ledge. Kirby coughed, stunned, the strain of holding merged powers nearly overwhelming him. Pikachu's sparks dimmed, exhausted. Even Mewtwo hovered shakily, psychic energy flickering like a candle in a gale. Eggman's final form, now unstable, flickered between corruption and coherence. A low, panicked laugh emerged, strained and human. Impossible. I created perfection. But even as he faltered, his presence still radiated menace. The heroes had won the battle, but the cost was clear. The world itself had been scarred, and the forces of Smash would never be the same. Mario rose slowly, fists glowing, looking over his friends. We did it, but it's not over. We've survived together. His voice trembled, carrying both relief and the weight of loss. Snake nodded silently, eyes scanning the fractured horizon, calculating threats yet unseen. High above, the remnants of Eggman's energy collapsed into a final, spiraling flare, dissipating into the sky. The heroes stood in the aftermath, battered, exhausted, but unbroken. Victory had been claimed, yet it felt fragile, hard-won, and tinged with the knowledge that the balance of Smash could shift again in an instant. And far away, beyond the wreckage and smoke, a faint ripple in the void hinted that someone, or something, had been watching all along, waiting for the next opportunity. The final confrontation had ended, but the war for Smash's soul was far from finished. The battlefield lay quiet. Broken platforms floated gently in the void, their jagged edges softened by the lingering glow of dissipating energy. The air still trembled faintly, carrying the echoes of chaos. Metallic screeches, psychic flares, and the distant hum of lingering machinery. The war was over, yet the world itself felt altered, as if Smash had been rewritten at its very core. Mario sat cross-legged on a fractured ledge, gaze fixed on the horizon. The sky, a shifting tapestry of pixelated clouds and residual energy, reflected a peace hard-earned but uneasy. We survived, he murmured, voice tinged with relief and exhaustion. Beside him, Kirby bounced softly, his small frame radiating the faint shimmer of absorbed powers. But things feel different, Kirby whispered, as if even he could sense the subtle fractures in reality that remained. Pikachu shook his head, sparks dancing lightly along his cheeks, a habitual reminder that the battle's energy still lingered. Mewtwo floated silently nearby, eyes closed, meditating on the lessons of strategy, control, and the frailty of balance. The psychic aura around him flickered occasionally, betraying a mind still processing the enormity of what had happened. Even Snake, crouched atop a crumbling spire, exhaled sharply, scanning the void as if anticipating the next hidden threat. The battlefield was silent, but silence here was not safety. From the far distance, remnants of Eggman's technology remained, sparks leaping from shattered machinery, data streams unraveling in patterns too complex for any one hero to fully comprehend. Though the villain had been defeated, traces of his ambition lingered like shadows in the air. He's gone, but his reach, Snake muttered, voice low, barely audible. Mario stood stretching stiff limbs and looked over his allies. We fought, and we learned. About power, about each other, about ourselves. His eyes fell on Mewtwo, who had remained aloof for most of the battle, wary of trusting anyone completely. Even when we doubted, even when things got dark, we kept moving forward. Mewtwo's eyes opened slowly, the psychic glow returning with calm intensity. Trust can be fragile, he said, voice resonating with quiet wisdom. But even in fragility, it can become strength. Today, we saw what cooperation can achieve, even against a force that seemed limitless. Kirby floated higher, spinning gently as if testing the air. And we learned about ourselves too, he said. Not just fighting, but who we are when the world changes around us. Mario nodded, appreciating the small but profound insight. Even in victory, the battlefield had taught them something far greater than combat. It had forced introspection, growth, and understanding. The air above them shimmered faintly, imperceptible at first. A distant, almost imperceptible pulse, rhythmic and deliberate, echoed across the void. Snake's eyes narrowed. That's not a glitch. Someone, or something, is out there. His words carried weight. The sense of unease rippled through the heroes. The calm of victory was temporary. Mewtwo's head tilted, psychic energy flaring slightly. I sense it, he said, voice steady. A signal. Not of this world. It carries knowledge, intent, and danger. Mario clenched his fists, determination hardening. Then we'll be ready. We've faced impossible before. We'll face it again. Yet, beneath that resolve, a thread of doubt lingered, a recognition that the universe of Smash was no longer the same. It had expanded, evolved, and perhaps, in ways they did not yet understand, it had become infinite. The camera of narration would linger on this moment. Kirby, small and unassuming, staring at the pulse. Pikachu, sparks dimming, but eyes alert. Mewtwo, calm yet wary. Mario, steady and resolute. And Snake, ever vigilant. All of them together, framed against a fractured sky, yet united. Their victories had shaped the world, but the world itself, unpredictable and vast, held secrets yet untold. A final ripple streaked across the void. Eggman's signal, fractured, corrupted, but unmistakable, traveled outward, reaching beyond the confines of Smash. Somewhere, far beyond the horizon of their universe, another world stirred. Energy flared across dimensions, a call to action, a whisper of evolution, and perhaps chaos. The experiment Eggman had begun was far from over. The heroes exhaled, each in their own way, and looked toward the fractured horizon. The battlefield had been infinite in its challenges, but now the legend of their struggle would echo, an eternal reminder of what had been faced, what had been endured, and what was yet to come. Far beyond the remnants of their war, far beyond the platforms and crumbling energy streams, the pulse continued, faint but insistent. A new world would receive it. New fighters would awaken. New challenges would rise. The Smash universe was stable. For now. But stability was only temporary. And somewhere, in the void between realities, the seeds of another experiment had already begun to take root. The battlefield was infinite. And the legend was just beginning.